What's up? Welcome back. In this episode, you're going to see how to solve day 2 of the advent of code in 2022. This is rock, paper, scissors. We're going to do this in Ruby today. So the elves are going to have this big rock, paper, scissors competition, and there's an elf that you've been helping out who is giving you this sort of sneaky strategy guide that will allow you to win the whole competition. So the way that you get your input is going to have this 2-column list. There's going to be a bunch of different rows, and each row represents like a round or one hand of throwing rock, paper, scissors against some opponent. Now, while the elf is explaining to you how to win, they say the first column is what your opponent is going to play. A for rock, B for paper, and C for scissors. So we have this A, B, C down here. The second column, the elf got cut off. They had to get pulled away, and so they didn't tell us what the second column is. And so we're just going to assume that the second column is X for rock, Y for paper, and Z for scissors. And that's just like the approach that we're going to take for this first part 1. Now, there is a way that you figure out a total score for each round. So you're going to get points whether you win or draw. And then if you lose, you're going to get 0 points. You're also going to get points for what you throw. So if you do a rock, you're going to get 1 point, paper, you get 2 points, or scissors, you get 3 points. So it's a combination of if you win and you throw scissors, then you get the most points. And if you lose and you throw a rock, then you just get 1 point. For winning, you get 6 points. Draw, you get 3 points. Losing, you get 0 points. So here's some example input: A, Y, X, B, X, C, Z. So this is rock, paper, right? They throw rock, we throw paper. That means we win. So we're going to get 6 points for winning. And then because we threw paper, we're also going to get 2 points. So this is like in the first example, we're expecting that we're going to get a total score of 8 for this one round of rock, paper, scissors. Then the second round, they throw paper and we throw rock, so they win. In which case we're going to lose. So we get like an outcome score of 0 because we lost. And then we only get 1 point because we threw rock. So the total for that second round is going to be 1. Third round, we're going to get 3 points for the draw and 3 points for throwing scissors. Also, don't throw scissors. That's like dangerous. You'll poke an eye out. Like the first thing that I would do in this case is anytime that I've implemented rock, paper, scissors, it gets a little bit like confusing, right? What is actually going on? So what I want to do is I'm going to add RSpecs so that we can run some specs. So I'm going to say bundle init bundle add RSpec. We're just going to add the RSpec gem to some gem file, install that locally. And then I'm going to make a new directory called day02. And actually, yeah, before we do that, we'll do RSpec --init. That's going to initialize RSpec and give us some config and stuff. Then I'm going to make a new directory called day2. What we'll do is inside of day2, we'll add a new file called day2.rb. And I'm actually just going to combine the implementation and the tests all in one file. This is like a handy approach that I've used in like interviews. And if you want to just write small scripts, this can be handy. So you can just require RSpec/autorun. And that will make it so we can describe things right here, just in line. RSpec.describe, I don't know, rock, paper, scissors. And maybe we want to start off with a couple methods. Maybe we're just going to have it calculates the score correctly. And so maybe we're going to talk about the score as so we're going to expect that there's some score method that's going to take in A and Y. So A and Y was this first round, and maybe our score is going to be like the total score is going to be 8. But let's say that because we're throwing a Y, which is paper, so because we're throwing paper, we should get 2, right? And then maybe this is the result of A and Y is 2, and then the bonus or something of A and Y. So like we get a win bonus because we won that round. So that's going to be 6. And then we're going to expect the total of A and Y to equal 8. So we should be able to run this test. And this is going to give us this is like building assertions around the output for this first example where we have this first round of A and Y. So let's run this. We can just say Ruby day 2. And now it's saying there's undefined method result. This is great. So as we're iterating, what we want to do is make the smallest change possible to our implementation that will change the output of the test. So we're just going to say def result, and we can say them, me, and then rerun our tests. rerun our tests. Expected 2, but we got nil. So in this case, what we want to do is based on what we threw, we want to calculate what value the result should be. So in this case, because we threw paper, we want it to come back with a 2. So for y, we want it to be 2. For x, we want it to be 1. And for z, we want it to be 3. Okay. There is another feature of Ruby that we can use here is looking at the sort of like ASCII value for a given character. So if we open up IRB here and just say that a is equal to x, and we say a.ord, ord is going to give us the ASCII integer value for the capital X character. In this case, it's 88. Now, if we change a to y and look at the ord for y, it's 89. So they're going to be in order, and lowercase are going to have different values than uppercase. So in this case, what we want to do is we'll just like, we know that we're going to get 2 points for y and 1 point for x. So what I want to do is I think I'm just going to take whatever value is passed in as what I threw, or whatever this me character is. We want to subtract 87 from the ord. So we're going to say me.ord minus 87. And that should give us the correct result based on the ASCII value. So we're going to exit here and rerun our tests. Okay, great. So the test changed. Undefined method bonus now for rock, paper, scissors. I'm going to say def bone them me. And now let's run this again. And we expected 6, but we got nil. Technically, what I should be doing if like we want to just make the smallest change possible is just type in 6. And then it's, okay, undefined method total. That calculates the score, def total, them, me. And rerun this again. It's going to come back nil, but we expected 8, so we can put in 8 here. And now the test should pass. Okay, so what we need is we actually need another implementation here. So we're going to just say, okay, let's make a copy of this, and let's look at our second example. So b and x. So let's change this to b and x, and we'll change this to b. And for b and x, your opponent is going to choose b, and we're going to choose rock. So because we chose rock, our result should be 1, and our bonus, because we lost, should be 0. So the total should be 1. So now if we run our tests again, now we definitely have a failure. We expected 0, but we got 6 for the bonus method. So if we go up to our bonus method here, this is where we actually need to do the meat and potatoes and figure out what our sort of score is going to be, right? So if we win, we want 6. So how do we tell if we were going to win? There's a couple different things we could do. We could say, oh, if like them is equal to e and me is equal to x, then we want to 0, right? Because if they threw paper and we threw rocks, then we want to return 0. But, and then all, I don't know, let's see, else if they threw b and we threw y, then we want to return 3 because that's a draw. Else if they threw b and we threw z, then we want to do a 6, right? Because that's going to give us a win. So in this case, they threw paper, we threw rock, so we lose. This case, they threw paper and we threw paper, so it's a draw. In this case, they threw paper and we threw scissors and we cut their paper, and so that's a win. But we don't want to have to go through all the different cases here. So instead, what I want to do is use a relatively new feature of Ruby called pattern matching. So we're going to say case of them, me, and if it's in like b, x, then we want to do 0. If it's in by, we're going to do 3. If it's in bz, we're going to do 6. And what we can do now is say, actually, we can just say otherwise we win. So we're going to figure out all the cases where we lose, all the cases where we draw. So this is going to be like a and x, right? If we both throw rock, we draw. If we both throw paper, we draw. If we both throw scissors, we draw. If they throw rock and we throw, we need to lose. So if they're throwing a rock, we need to throw scissors and then we lose. And otherwise, if they throw scissors and we throw paper, we lose, and then otherwise we get 6 back. All right, let's run it and see if we get the right answer. Okay, expected 1 got 8 for the total. So now we need to fix our total method just to see if this is gonna work. So total is gonna be something like result of them and me plus the bonus of them and me. And we'll run this again. And now we have 2 passing tests. All right, so that's good. Let's add in this last case just in case. Also, the other thing you'll notice is like we're repeating ourselves a ton here. And so what we can do is rather than typing all this out every single time, we can create a list that is A, Y, and then we can have it do 2, 6, 8. And then we can have B, X, 1, 0, 1, and what we can do is we can each over this, and then only implement this once, and then we have like result of them, me is going to give us this result. Oh, also we need to name these differently: result, bonus, and total. So this is going to give us bonus and total. And then we can remove these tests. And when we run this, we cross our fingers and hope we got it right. Oh no, we got it wrong. Okay. Oh, because this should be another them, me situation. Okay. Run it again. All right. 3 passing tests. Fantastic. All right. So now what we want to do is run it against our input. At the bottom, we'll just say, okay, file.readLines of argv.first. And each line is going to give us a round. So then what are we going to actually get from this? So let's print out what we're going to get. So in day 2 input, we want to drop in our test input. So go back to the puzzle, get our puzzle input. I'm going to copy everything from here, drop it in. And now we should be able to say something like Ruby day 2 with input or day 2 / input. Okay. So this is our output. We get tons and tons of output. It's giving us the right input. So each of the lines has a round. We want to chomp off the new line here, and then we want to split it so that we want to split on space so that we get a bunch of individual rows. So we're going to say .map chomp, and then .map for each line we want to split it. So we're going to say _1.split on the empty string, and now we should get something else. Okay, so now each row has this C or like it has its combos. So now for each of those, what we want to do is map them and me to some total of them and me. So we'll run that again. And now we get a bunch of totals. And finally, we want to, let's see, back on the puzzle, what would your total score be if everything goes exactly according to your strategy guide? So we're hoping for 13268. So we want to do like .sum, and that should give us our answer here. Okay, 13268. All right, so that is the right answer. We're still getting a bunch of failures for our RSpec output. That's because we're like now reading files in the middle of this, but we know that our tests are passing based on the example input, and we know that this should actually work. So 13268, fantastic. So that is part 1 for rock, paper, scissors. In part 2, the elf comes up to us and they're like, oh, actually, in the second column, X means that you need to lose, Y means that you need to win, or that you need to draw, and Z means you need to win. So it's actually not what we were expecting. And so this output is not what we want. Instead, what we want is a different mapping of it. So instead of the second column being the shape that we're throwing, the second column is whether or not we're going to win or lose or draw. So what we need to do now is modify our solution so that it works for this new approach. And so what I think I want to do is, rather than changing the current implementation, what I want to do is just have like total 2, and that'll be the total for part 2, and we'll say them and me. And now we're going to get the result of them and me plus the bonus of them and me. And the difference is going to be that instead of me being the win or lose, we need to sort of like translate what me actually means. Let's go down to the bottom. We'll comment out our file reading. We'll comment back in RSpec here, and we're going to add another test. So in the second example, it gave us a bunch of new solutions. So in the first round, the opponent is going to choose rock, we choose paper, but the total should now be 4. So what we can do is we can do the same sort of situation, but now we'll just use like the new totals so that we can play with this. So in the second use case, we get back 1, and the third use case, 7. So that should be our totals. And then we're just going to use total 2 as the test. So now we can say Ruby day 1 or day 2. Okay, there's no RSpec because we commented this out. All right, let's run it again. Okay, so now we're getting a bunch of nils, but we expected nil, but got 8. What is this? Oh, you know what? It's because we're still passing these around. So now this should just be, oops, this should just be total up here. Okay, try this again. All right, so now we're getting the old answers. We're not getting the new answers. And so that means that we need to modify the input. So what's happening is they're telling us you need to win or lose or draw. And so what I was thinking is we can translate from the X, Y, or Z into what we threw. So this is actually the total number 2 is actually going to be like result or like the outcome. And what I want to do is translate the outcome into a me, basically a me value. So then what we want to do is like me is equal to some new method that is like transform them and outcome into me. And then we can reuse the same logic. So now we have this new function called transform. This is not how I solved it the first time. So this is going to be interesting how we look at this. So if the outcome was, okay, so now I think we need something similar to what we had above. So it's going to be something like if they threw rock and we threw scissors, what should we return? If they threw rock and we threw scissors, what should we return? So let's do this. Let's do this thing again here. Or no, if they threw rock and we need to lose or win. All right, let's see. X means that you need to lose. So X means you need to lose. So if they threw rock and we need to lose. So if they threw rock and we need to lose, that's going to crush scissors. So we actually need to, in this case, return Z. And if they threw rock and we threw paper, or no, if they threw rock and we need to draw, then we need to throw our rock also. So that's going to be an X. And if they threw rock and we threw scissors, no, if they threw rock and we need to win, then we need to throw paper. So that's going to be Y. Okay. Okay. So once we've got like all of these patterns mapped out, one thing we can do is just kind of like organize them so they're in the same spot. So like I can put all the X's together. So let's grab all of the X's here, and then we can grab all the Z's and put them at the bottom. And okay, and we can grab the Y's and put them together. So now we have XXX, YYY, ZZZ. That should be, so there's like all of these different patterns that start to line up when you're working through these things. And so what we want to do is actually just put all the X stuff on one line, and then we can replace this with a pipe. Put all the Y stuff on one line and replace this with a pipe. So pattern matching in Ruby is pretty fun to play around with. And then in fact, like for these ones, we can actually just change this to an else because we shouldn't get any other answer there, right? So let's run this again. Undefined local variable or method me for RSpec calculates the score, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so where is it seeing me? Oh, there is no me here. This is outcome. Okay, let's try this again. All right, tests are passing. Fantastic. We'll come down here and comment this back in. And we're going to switch this to total 2. And that's going to be our part 2 answer. And we'll comment out all of our RSpec fun. and run this with our day 2 input. And we get 15,508, 15,508. Boom. All right. So that is the solution to day 2 in Ruby. There's a couple of fun things we did in this version. So using pattern matching in Ruby, again, this is like super fun stuff, right? So yeah, you can use these case statements and match on patterns. We're only really using maybe like this pipe operator in an interesting way in this case, but you can see how it would simplify maybe this humongous nested if-else statement. There's probably other really clever ways to do this. This was like the way that I wanted to do it so that I could play around with pattern matching. So hopefully this was interesting or useful. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you're enjoying this Advent of Code season, and if you want to learn Ruby, obviously I'm going to be continuing to make these. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right. And yeah, hope you have a good day. See ya.